Hello and welcome to All Top 5s. I've always been fascinated by ancient Egyptian culture and mythology, and that's largely because of their incredible range of deities. There was a god or a goddess for most activities, daily objects and concepts, from the glorious to the scary to the downright weird. Here are 5 especially interesting ancient Egyptian deities. Number 5. Meshkent. First up is the goddess of childbirth, Meshkent or Meshkenet. She was one of the earliest deities worshipped by ancient Egyptians. Meshkent took 2 different forms. Most often she was depicted as a brick with the head of a woman. This is because in ancient Egypt, women usually gave birth while squatting upon a pair of special birthing bricks, and Meshkent was associated with this delivery method. Her other form was more symbolic, taking the form of a woman with a cow's uterus on top of her head, wearing it as a headdress. Bizarre as this image may seem to us, this goddess was highly revered, as she was responsible for breathing the ka, or the life spark, into babies at their birth. She was also involved in the process of rebirth after death, testifying if the dead person was worthy of being reborn. One story from an old papyrus scroll tells of Meshkent overseeing the birth of a set of triplets. She prophesied that each one of them would become a pharaoh, and it turned out that way, as they became the first 3 kings of the 5th dynasty. Number 4. Khepera. Appearing in ancient Egyptian texts as a scarab beetle, and sometimes a man with a scarab beetle for a head, Khepera was a god with a symbolic origin. Although he was never worshipped by a devoted cult as many other gods were, Khepera was widely accepted as the deity associated with the scarab beetle. The scarab was a common creature in ancient Egypt. It's known for rolling huge balls of dung into a hole in the ground and laying its eggs in them. When these eggs hatched and dozens of scarabs swarmed out of the dung ball, the Egyptians would see this as a form of creation and rebirth. Add this to the symbolic image where the dung ball represents the morning sun and the beetle rolls it across the sky, and you arrive at the god Khepera. As a solar deity, Khepera was often seen as an aspect of the almighty sun god Ra, and amulets in the shape of scarab beetles are often seen in jewellery and seals which are in his honour. Number 3. Horus. If you know anything about ancient Egyptian mythology, you'll recognise Horus, or at least his name. One of the most significant of all the gods and goddesses, Horus was worshipped all across Egypt as patron god. He was depicted as a man with the head of a falcon, often wearing a red and white crown. This symbolised his status as king of Egypt. The reason I've chosen Horus isn't because he's unusual or particularly strange, but because of one particular story from ancient papyrus scrolls. It's a bit weird. Horus was documented as having an ongoing war with Set, the god of the desert. Set had killed Horus's father and was in contention with Horus for ruler of Egypt, a double whammy. After one of their many battles, Set attempted to show how he could dominate Horus once and for all by seducing him and forcing intercourse. However, the crafty Horus sneakily caught Set's semen in his hands rather than be inseminated. He threw this semen into the river. Horus then spread some of his own semen onto a lettuce, Set's favourite food. He tricked Set into eating that particular lettuce, then they agreed to go before the other gods to settle their feud. The gods listened to Set claiming he had dominated Horus. They called forth his semen for proof, but when they did, the semen in the river shone for all to see, invalidating Set's claim. Horus then made his own claim of dominance, and when the semen was called forth, it caused the foolish Set, who had eaten the lettuce, to shine. He was defeated, eventually relinquishing control of the throne of Egypt. This story is one of my favourites as it's so disgustingly bizarre, and it gets Horus to number 3 on my list. Number 2. He. Although nowadays he implies weak amusement, to the ancient Egyptians it was something far more sacred. He was the god of infinity. His name actually means endlessness. He was depicted as a bearded man with the traditional wig, holding a notched palm branch in each hand. These palm branches represented time, as temples used them to keep time in religious rituals and ceremonies. Although He is usually depicted as a man, sometimes he was shown as a frog, and old texts state that he was actually formless, an abstract concept turned god. As a result, he wasn't worshipped by any one dedicated cult, but his image was often worn on amulets, symbolising the wearer's wish for a long life. Indeed, He was often used as a hieroglyph in the ancient Egyptian language, representing the number 1,000,000. Despite having no form, He was believed to have existed before the universe came into being, making him another mysterious and wonderful addition to this top 5 list. Number 1. Amat. Now we finish with a real monster. Literally meaning devourer, Amat was a female demon who lived in the ancient Egyptian underworld. She was depicted as having the head of a crocodile, the forequarters of a lion, and the hindquarters of a hippopotamus, and she dwelled next to the scales of justice. It was believed that every deceased person had to pass tests before they were allowed into the afterlife. In the Hall of Two Truths, the deceased's heart would be placed on the scales of justice and weighed against a feather from the goddess of truth. If the soul was impure, Amat would immediately devour the heart, preventing the person from continuing to the afterlife. Because of this, Amat wasn't worshipped as a patron god at all, but instead she was feared by the ancient Egyptians for her ability to obstruct their path to heaven. She was also associated with the Lake of Fire, where evil souls were destroyed. Certainly a god that you don't want to mess with. Her appearance alone was enough to cause even the most devout to tremble. And over so quickly, that's it from all top 5s for this week. There are so many deities in ancient Egyptian mythology that I'm going to have to do another video to cover some fantastic ones that I had to miss out. Please feel free to discuss my top 5 in the comments, I'd be really interested to see what you say. Just remember to keep it clean and keep it friendly. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up, because it really does help me out, and don't forget that you can subscribe for a new video from me every single Tuesday, so you'll be getting one a week. Woohoo! Now, peace and love to each and every last one of you, and I will see you all next time on All Top 5s.